Dabo Swinney conversation before about would the Raiders be interested in Dabo. That conversation comes up again today for a couple of reasons. One, Urban, could you go back? Is it the same if you hire Dabo when the Jags hired Urban? Is it the same thing? Also, a lot going on in the world of college football, early signing period, NIL, big money. Dabo's not happy with it. And he has said, I don't like this. Remember, he said a few years ago, when they start getting paid, I'm out of here, which hasn't happened. He's not out. And then on top of that, you found this incredible little nugget, something Derek Carr shared the other day. What was this?
I think it was a long time. It was like 2 months ago with the little kids. Remember he did that podcast?
Yeah, but it was posted like a week ago.
Well, I think someone on Twitter, I had typed it in. I think I had typed in Dabo Swinney to Twitter. That came up. That was the same podcast which he said that he would retire. I think that was like 2 months ago. But on that little nugget was that Dabo Swinney FaceTimes Derek way more than he even talks to Hunter Renfrow. Hunter was there, right? They did him, Hunter, and the two kids. Might have been his nephew, Darren or David's son, I would imagine, or maybe some association, Bakersfield. But in that clip, he mentioned that Dabo FaceTimes him. And here's what I know about Dabo Swinney. Like a lot of coaches in the South, very, very religious. And Derek is very, very religious. So obviously they are football guys, and I would call Derek a lover of the sport of football. Like football means a lot to Derek.
Yeah.
Football means a lot to Dabo. Faith is very, very high in both their lives. I could see them kind of hitting it off whenever I guess Dabo's been to game. I mean, the Raiders have a lot of Clemson players, and they have over the years, right? Obviously Cleveland, but remember they drafted Mullen in the second round. Hunter Renfrow caught a walk-off national championship touchdown for Dabo. Dabo is a wide receiver. I bet his relationship with Hunter Renfrow, especially given that Hunter was a walk-on, even a coach that's recruiting and signing 5-star blue chippers, there is no doubt in my mind that Hunter Renfrow is one of Dabo's favorite players of all time. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
So they have a close connection. And then Derek and Hunter have become close friends. So I don't think it's the craziest
Dabo was at
thing.
the game the other day.
Yeah.
Look, I think there's a legitimate conversation to have about college coaches coaching in the NFL, but not all of them are created equal. They're individual people. Let's not let Urban, as big of a failure as it was, and as many other college coaches as we could quickly point to and say they also failed, Urban was on the extreme end of failure. Urban's in the Bobby Petrino category of failure, right?
Yeah, he didn't make it to week 16.
You know what Nick Saban's record in 2 years in Miami was? Well, a year and a half.
15 and 17 or something?
Yeah. Doug Marrone, I think of as an NFL guy. He coached in college. Weird. 15 and 17.
He's the O-line coach now for Alabama.
Yeah, but he was also like the OC for the Saints, so I don't know if he quite is the same. Bill O'Brien was over 500 in Houston. Cliff is a college coach. Now, he's a play caller. Obviously, Harbaugh was as good as it gets. Spurrier, not good, 12 and 20. Urban wasn't getting to 12 and 20, though. So I'm not saying it's not a legitimate conversation, but Urban is on the extreme end of the failure of spectrum of some of these guys.
And
I don't think you're right.
Jimmy Johnson would be probably the best ever. Won multiple national championships.
Yeah.
I mean, multiple Super Bowls.
And when you combine what a high level he was in, Harbaugh obviously went to Super Bowl, high level at Michigan now.
I think Harbaugh has to be one of the greatest transitions ever. I mean, he's done it
for
both
sure
at a high level.
But part of his story is that it was like 11, 12, 13, 4 years.
4 years. Yeah. Never lost. Never.
3 of them were great with a capital G.
But his low was 8-8.
Yeah. But
Pretty
it felt
low.
like give him another year and the low might be lower.
It was trending.
Yeah, it was trending wrong. But so would you consider Dabo for does what happened with Urban change anything about how you think about Dabo Swinney and the Raiders?
Well, do you think Dabo, we just talked about it a little bit, like, are they, Trevor Lawrence, him, what if he has options? Do you think the Jacksonville can't go down? Because in a weird way, Urban, not as people, as I've been told by people that do the SEC, the difference between Dabo and Saban as they became a rival, Saban was a factory, Dabo was a family. Dabo is a positive guy. Not that Nick's not, but it's just tighter around there. It's a much more family atmosphere. Obviously, his two coordinators that just left, They stayed there for almost a decade. That is unheard of, given that they won multiple national championships. Those guys were turning down jobs every year. It was a fun place to be. But like Urban, as a coach, he does not call plays. Never has. I mean, guy, he's a CEO head coach in college. Like he's the CEO. So you would hire him with the Raiders. Say what you want about Gruden. Gruden did impact every game he ever coached for Mark Davis the second time around, right? Every single game he called plays. Every fucking one. So it's like you could be critical of him, like he didn't go for it or that was a dumb play, but like you could be specific. It wasn't about timeouts or game man. It was like the play calling was on him, which I like. I mean, you just can there's a tangible aspect there. Dabo would not, to me, say what you want about Chip Kelly. And this was the same thing when I was in Philly. Before Chip accepted the job, they tried to hire Bill O'Brien. Both those guys were going to call the plays. So it's like Dabo, the Raiders, I actually think they got a lot of good guys. I mean, most of their team, pretty high-level dudes. Even like when you hear Waller and Max Crosby, guys that overcame drug addiction and alcoholism, it's like these would be the type of guys I'd want. These are good guys. And then on top of Derek and the Renfros, do they really need quote-unquote culture? They just need a good coach. They need more talent. They need a good drafter, and they need people scheming. That, to me, is what the Raiders are missing. Not like their guys aren't getting to the office early enough. Like, that's not really their problem.
I'm not anti-Dabo in the NFL, but he would not be my hire with the Raiders because of what you just said. I think they're close.
It does feel like that. I think that conversation you watch, you and I are way ahead. I think it's going to come up.
It absolutely is. And I'm not anti it.
I bet he interviews.
Well, Dabo, if your down years are 9 wins, like that was his down year this year at Clemson, then you're in fantastic shape. But, a 9-win season for them is, while a good low, an outlier. He's won 10 or more games in 10 straight years. Now he's lost both his coordinators. The game has changed in a way that he doesn't love. And I do wonder, I think he's been there for 12 or 13 years. Oh, this is 14 years. He went 149 and 36.
He was an assistant for a couple years before I think Bobby Bowden's kid got fired, and then he was the interim, and then he was named the head coach.
Right. So counting the interim, he's been the coach 14 years, counting the interim year. So 13.
That seems like a long time, doesn't it?
It does. 08 was the interim year.
Damn.
So my point is, I wonder, is Dabo ready to explore? And if he is,
a long time.
Which job would he like? Well, it's also just, I know what you're going to say if I say, is it about to fall apart at Clemson? Because I don't mean fall apart. You're going to say, look, 9 wins. Are you kidding? But I do wonder if Clemson is about to take a step back just from utter dominance, a decade of utter dominance.
Well, guy, you could argue his back-to-back quarterbacks, it's one of the greatest collegiate if Trevor Lawrence ever figures it out. Deshaun Watson is Trevor Lawrence for 6 years. How does it get any better than that? They won 2 national championships. They went to a third. Trevor Lawrence went to the playoffs every single year. Deshaun was in back-to-back. They lost, and they won, so they would have won 3 playoff games in 2 years, and 1 being the national championship. I mean, it was one of the great 5-year stretches in, collegiate history. Right, but obviously, if Saban's won, Dabo has an argument of a 5-year stretch against anybody. It doesn't get any better than that. If they weren't ranked 1, they were ranked 3rd or 2nd. I mean, it's a crazy run. It just doesn't get any better. It's as good as it gets. So he's been to the mountaintop. And then he realizes, no one... Would Alabama have taken? I guess they took Bryce. But, could DJ have got into any school beside Alabama, right? Would anyone have taken him?
Yeah.
And clearly, he just realizes they took the right guy, and he might not be good enough. Now, they can recoup. That's the one.
I'm sure Alabama was recruiting him, too. Guarantee.
Yeah. But my thing is, would they have taken both him and Bryce, or maybe Nick would have been let the cream rise?
Takes 9 star receivers. So Dabo would not be I'm with you. I think it's a real conversation. He wouldn't be my first choice because if they were 2-win team, the Raiders, I'd go, okay, let's take a big swing. But let's just get you somebody who can help your quarterback, who can run your offense, who can run or your defense. I honestly don't care. and can run your operation just like let's get to a regular NFL operation here. The Jags, the relationship with him and Trevor. But who's he going to
hireable given what they just happened to them?
He
is a nice guy.
Who's his OC going to be? That'd be my question.
Well, you got to give him $2 million and you go sign one.
I just want him to hire an NFL. Was he going to hire an NFL OC?
Great, Doug. I guess Doug would be a head coach.
Him and
Doug are buddies.
See, now Doug would be a guy that I think would make sense in Jacksonville.
Or the Florida.
Raiders. Both of them would make sense for the Raiders. Excalibur says, "What about Bill Walsh, college to pro, versus Jimmy Johnson?"
But I think Bill Walsh, didn't the Niners hire him from Cincinnati, if I remember correctly?
Had he not been at Stanford before that?
I think he had, but was he that? Okay, never mind. He was with the Bengals, 68 to 75. Then he went to the Chargers for a year. Then he became the head coach for basically 2 years. So the Niners hired him from Stanford. But I don't know if Stanford was that good when he was there.
Well, I doubt they were. But he was a college coach when they hired him. That's hiring a college coach, right?
Yeah. He's not wrong.